Bitcoin is a decentralized digital currency. Currency, because just like the dollar, the peso, or the yen, a Bitcoin is used to buy things. Digital, because it only exists in the world of computers, there is no such thing as a paper Bitcoin. And decentralized, because unlike traditional banknotes, this currency is not dependent on governments or banks. That's the important part of the story. Bitcoin, the system, works without the need for an administrator, and that has some very interesting implications. Before we talk about Bitcoin, it's a good idea to ask yourself what ordinary money is. Here we propose that you think of money as a technology designed to keep accounts. Accounts for what? The accounts of the favors we owe each other, especially strangers. With friends we don't want to have an exact idea of who has done more for each other, but, among strangers, the situation is different. What is called favor among friends is called work among strangers. And there, it is in our interest to have clear accounts. If you do something for others, it is reasonable to expect others to do something for you. Well, it is money that helps us to quantify that something, the bill you receive in exchange for your work, is nothing more than a piece of paper that certifies that society owes you favors. You decide to whom you charge that favor, but the point is, we move the papers from one place to another, to remember who has worked for others. Is that understood? Well, now think that this system is vulnerable, because if I start forging money, basically, I am inventing that I have already done favors for others. So, someone has to be entrusted with the responsibility of producing a special paper that is very difficult to counterfeit. That someone is the state. And in cases where the paper does not change hands, as in electronic transactions, someone has to be entrusted with the responsibility of updating the accounts. That someone is the banks. Having said all that, what is the idea of Bitcoin? Well, if the basic problem is to find an efficient and secure way of keeping accounts, Bitcoin is another technology that intends to do the same thing. But with the difference that this time, we don't want to trust anyone with the power to alter that information. No one with the power to print money and no one to update accounts on behalf of others. The reasons for doing this can be many and very diverse, but let's stick to two. One is that the transactional system of banks is very expensive, especially for international payments, and the other is that many governments are in the habit of printing money like crazy, and this distorts the accounts, technically called inflation. In other words, relying on governments and banks generates a cost for society. Bitcoin was the first of many decentralized digital currencies that aim to eliminate that cost, or at least reduce it significantly. Now let's move on to the how. How does Bitcoin replace the state and banks? Okay. The first thing is, understand the scheme. In the normal world, an electronic transaction looks like this. In order for Bob to give Miguel money, he has to send a message to the banks, and the system administrators validate the payment and update the accounts. In the meantime, the state is over there watching. In Bitcoin, on the other hand, the scheme is decentralized. The community is directly connected and there is no authority watching over it. Thus, everyone keeps everyone else's accounts. The key is to understand the dynamics of the system. It is not that Bob and Miguel pass Bitcoins to each other alone. What actually happens is that Bob tells the entire community that he wants to pay Miguel a Bitcoin. The community first validates the information, i.e. that Bob has enough money, and then everyone notes that Bob now has 1 Bitcoin less and Miguel 1 Bitcoin more. It is as simple as that. The accounts are kept by the community and the value of the currency is that people trust the system. But let's clarify a few things. First, everything is anonymous. It is not someone's identity that is validated, but their password. The Bitcoin community knows how much money Bob's account holds, but it doesn't know who that account belongs to. For users, sending Bitcoins is as easy as sending an email, but for computers to validate the information is hard work, because in Bitcoin, everything is protected by cryptography. That is, by algorithms and mathematical functions that prevent any attempt to alter the information. It is also important to know that there are two types of users, those who verify transactions and those who do not. It is important because those who do verify, buy expensive computers and leave them on all day long processing information. These people are known as miners. Something that may seem very mysterious, just keep in mind that this activity is as voluntary as making corrections in Wikipedia. Well, what's important, is it safe? Yes, that's the magic of Bitcoin. It is a cryptocurrency. But, here we come to the point where things get complicated. How is it that the accounts do not go crazy, if everyone is making transactions at the same time, and there is no central administrator to receive these messages and organize them? This is possible because Bitcoin is a cryptographically protected system, in which everyone keeps everyone's accounts, and it has a blockchain. Let's go back to the transaction between Bob and Miguel. We had said that Bob sends a message to the whole community. Now let's ask ourselves what that message contains. Well, it has three things. It has Bob's digital signature, so that everyone can verify that they are talking to the owner of the account. It also has the instruction to transfer a Bitcoin to Miguel, so that everyone knows what to do. And finally, you have the reference to a past transaction or transactions which, Bob, shows that he does have money to pay. If all these things are right, we know that Bob is not telling lies and, then, his message becomes a possible transaction. But we can't write that down in the ledger yet, because there is a problem, and that is, the mess. As Bitcoin has no central administrator, many transactions are being validated in different places. The challenge then is, that everyone agrees to have the same order, so that all copies of the ledger are the same. This is how the concept of blockchain appears. This concept refers to the strategy of packaging several transactions in the same block. Let's call it block 1. And choose one of the blocks 1, to chain it, officially, to the transactions of the past. The funny thing is that when a block joins the chain, it becomes official and impossible to modify. And how is the winning block chosen? With a raffle. The decision is random. It is a sophisticated raffle, in which, those users who are proposing an order, use all the processing power of their computer to decipher a password. The one who deciphers the key, thanks to trying many times, wins the right to define the next official block, and everyone else has to listen and write that block down in their ledger. Bitcoin is designed so that someone finds the key every 10 minutes, on average. In other words, every 10 minutes, there is a new official block. Well, why waste expensive equipment on validating other people's transactions? What incentive does anyone have to do all that work? Well, 6.25 bitcoins, which, at the time of recording this video, is more than 100,000 euros. But the point is that there is a good reward for those who validate transactions. This is the last piece of the puzzle, as it is the way in which new coins enter the Bitcoin economy. No one here makes the decision to print more money. By design, it was defined how much money we start with, how much new money is created, and who gets that money, which will be who wins the raffle. Now, what does all this have to do with criminals using Bitcoin? Very little. The point is that, as in Bitcoin, users are anonymous and transactions can be made from anywhere in the world, we have a more powerful technology that facilitates legal activities, but also illegal ones. In any case, the news is not that Bitcoin is used to collect ransom, the news is not even that the price of Bitcoin continues to rise, or fall, with respect to the dollar. The real news is that humanity now has a technology that is capable of transferring value digitally, without the help of an intermediary. And that, where you see it, is a revolution. If you liked the video and want to support the channel, I leave in the description a wallet to send Bitcoin, no matter the amount. The important thing is to see how this revolution is possible. Thanks for everything. Here Bob Economist says goodbye. Any doubt, leave it in the comments. See you in the next video.